You are listening to Claret Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live. Hello, welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast. I'm Dan Rolinson, joined by Matt Kendrick in his, 98, 99, 2000 shirt?
2000, cup final shirt, I think.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
Asking. I feel unnecessarily chipper this morning. I don't know why. It was a long day at work yesterday and a long night going to Villa Park to sit and watch a pretty drab 1-1 draw with Burnley. But like I said in the previous podcast, I missed Saturday due to COVID. I kind of wanted to appreciate going to Villa Park a little bit more. Take it all in. It's the last home game. But I'm going to sit here and complain that 1-1 against Burnley is pretty rubbish. So
I'm glad that it's really changed the way that you think about things. How you had to miss the match. Now you've been back, you realise you didn't miss it at all. Brilliant. That's what a conclusion.
Yeah. Your kind of summary, your thoughts on the game, is drab the right word for it or not?
Yeah, Aston Villa don't do draws, do they? Until they do. You wait all for a draw to come along and then two come along at once. Yeah, it was just a little bit flat, wasn't it? Really, it was. I know Burnley still got plenty to play for. Aston Villa seemed as if I wouldn't say they were on the beach, but you just didn't. There was a time, probably for the first 15 minutes, where we kind of kept them pegged back, won a few corners, and they were under pressure and defending quite desperately for the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then they got a foothold in the game, and then it just became a little bit hard to get past them, to be honest. Trying to hit long balls up for Ollie Watkins, not really going to have much of a chance against those big centre halves, nor is he if you're kind of crossing head high from the channels. And yeah, I just thought it was a little bit flat, and we'll get onto it, I'm sure, later. But the lap of appreciation, it's already gone whatever o'clock. It's not the same as on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon when the players are all bringing their kids on and the sun's shining. The players were still bringing the kids on, and I was thinking, tapping the watch, thinking these kids should be in bed. This is outrageous. But yeah, it wasn't the swashbuckling end to the season that we hoped to see at Villa Park, but it probably was a metaphor for the season in terms of there were good bits, there were bad bits, and ultimately it was all a bit meh, which I think probably summed up last night and the season.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, this probably says more about me. I'm a poor fan compared to you. I didn't stay for the lap of appreciation. What were we appreciating?
Unbelievable. We're appreciating our heroes who go out there and entertain us, who give blood, sweat and tears, who leave everything on the pitch.
To be fair, I've got this thing, and this is a little superstition, I think, actually, more so than anything. If we are not winning, again, this says everything about how fickle I am. If we're not winning, I don't clap the players back out at half time. So when Gerrard walks past and everything, I don't clap or anything. So I think, well, you're not winning, so deal with it. Make me support you. I mean, that's terrible, isn't it?
Unbelievable. Mentioned these before.
It's a superstition now. If we're losing or we're drawing at half time, I just don't clap because I think, well, I've never done it, so I'm not going to do it now.
That's not a superstition. That's a stupid stition, if there is such a thing. It's we mentioned before, the old gits who sit up in the Royal Box in the Muppets, Stadler and Waldorf, and who complain about everything. That's like you. Is that like, entertain me? That's not me. I'm not. I stayed and applauded.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a Saturday 3 o'clock, it's slightly different. I'm thinking about the last train home and getting stranded. I don't really care. I've seen pictures of it. It looked nice. It's a nice little moment, but I wasn't the only one who walked out early. Just put it that way.
Miserable kid.
Let's rewind back to 7 o'clock team news as always, and a little bit more to talk about here than maybe some podcasts. All a little bit different, wasn't it? Chukwuemeka gets a start. It's not two strikers up front. Chambers was obviously the change that we knew was going to happen, but yeah, talk me through that. I was a little bit surprised to see some of those names.
Yeah, we're parking up, and the team news came through, and my son was reading it off his phone, blah blah blah, and it took me a while to work out the configuration of how we're going to play, and then it looked, like I say, Carney. I think Carney started off the left, but I don't think Carney actually was providing much width down that left.
He was a second number 10, wasn't he? Basically.
Well, I think it was that. I think it was Buendia and Chukwuemeka just playing in behind Watkins, which I think limited us in terms of width. To be honest, we got Matty Cash down the right. I don't think there was much down the left. Jacob Ramsey tried to offer that outlet down the left, but yeah, it was different, I think. But I'm not sure it worked spectacularly well. I mean, I've got this theory at the moment that if Matty Cash and Luca Dean were rolled into one, you would have a very, 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 very good full-back stroke wing-back there. Because Cash, we know this, we see it every week. Cash has got the energy and the pace and the drive to really bomb down that right flank, but hasn't got the final ball. He's got a whipped cross, but I very rarely see him look up and pick out a man. Whereas Luca Dean does have the delivery, has the sweet left peg, but just doesn't quite have the engine to own that, that kind of left-hand channel in the way that Cash does down the right. But listen, I rate both of them, so that's not a criticism. Perhaps if you had got a player who got both those things, then might already be playing in the top 4 and top 6 rather than the top 14.
Top 14, Jesus. I'm going to try and keep it. I want to talk about 14, but let's try and go through some kind of order. Buendia starting instead of Coutinho, which I think was probably to be expected. He played against Burnley in the away fixture, and Coutinho will probably play on Sunday, I would expect. He's
definitely Gerrard's first pick for games against Burnley, so he really needs to hope that Burnley stay up on the last day. He's deserved. We've banged on about him, haven't we, in recent weeks, that even the bits and pieces when he's come off the bench, he's made a difference and he's made an impact. So he deserved the start. I actually thought he was one of the better players throughout. I was gutted for him when he gave the penalty away. I think it was a stupid tackle and a stupid thing to do.
A forwards tackle.
You could definitely. You could see straight away he knew he was banged to rights. Got his head in his hands. He couldn't do the mock. You know what? I never touched him kind of thing. You could see he was gutted with himself. Before that, he probably would have made it onto a highlights reel if it was Leon Bailey, but it probably would have passed most people by. He did a lovely little kind of round the corner back heel flick down by the Whitton Lane touchline. You see that in the first half? I don't normally encourage me number 10s to start playing those little tricks and flicks in their own half. But he did a beautiful piece, worth the admission fee alone. So I thought he played. I thought he was one of the brighter lights. Really gutted when he gave the penalty away, and really, really chuffed for him when he was the man who kind of atoned for it with the equaliser.
Good goal as well.
Yeah, it was a good goal. It was a great run, to be fair. And I thought some of McGinn's passing was brilliant. I mean, I think some of his set piece deliveries when he was on, a couple of free kicks he overcooked, I think. But his passing was fantastic. I think he played a little bit more advanced. Pulled out a couple of saves, didn't he, from Nick Pope first half. I thought the first save from Pope, when McGinn put a bit of a curler in, I thought it was one for the cameras. But when McGinn got hold of one 10 minutes later, I thought that was flying in. So I thought that was a brilliant save.
I'll just, again, a couple of weeks ago I said, I've got the ability to watch things back on another tab here. So I was just watching the goal back then as you were talking through it. When Louise plays the ball to McGinn, for McGinn to put the ball in for Buendia's still in the centre circle to make his run from. He's just trotting outside of the centre circle when McGinn touches the ball. So a run from the deepest midfielder. I mean, I don't know why he's all the way back there to begin with, but makes up for it, gets in the box. Nice tidy finish as well. And that is a nice goal in the end. And McGinn, I think, got Ash's man of the match. Would you agree with that?
Probably would over the course of the game. I thought it wasn't a particularly fantastic performance from Villa, but I thought McGinn was as good as anybody. So yeah, that sounds fair. Well done, Ash.
Yeah, good. Nick Pope, I suppose he's the next port of call to mention. It's you've got a bigger sample size here than I have, but that. And again, this is probably recency bias that I'm only thinking of last night rather than any further back. But that feels like one of the better goalkeeper performances I've seen from an opposition goalkeeper at Villa Park.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a slightly wider frame of reference, and all I can think of is Hugo Lloris did pretty well in the first half. I know we lost that game 4-0, but Tottenham took a bit of a batter in the first half from us, and Lloris pulled off a few. Yeah, I'm sure down the years these goalkeepers have done more to thwart us than that. But I thought Pope was good. I actually thought. I mean, it was a good run and tidy finish from Buendia. I actually thought he could have got a stronger hand. I mean, I'm being quite critical here with all my goalkeeping experience of playing in 5-side goals in the garden with my kids. But yeah, no, if Burnley go down, I think Nick Pope possibly won't. Do you know what I mean? I think he might be one of the ones who's snapped up and stays in the Premier League. But yeah, he played exceptionally well. It's funny, isn't it? Because it didn't strike me as a performance where we did necessarily batter them, but the fact that we're talking about Pope pulling off probably 5 really, really good saves suggests that, and I think Gerrard said this in his post-match, creating isn't the problem, or it certainly wasn't the problem last night. It's sticking those away. I think Ings came on with his first touch,
one just wide as well,
post as well. So yeah, looking back on it, I don't know. It didn't feel like a great performance, but the evidence in front of our eyes tells us that we created plenty.
Yeah, me opening with this podcast calling it a drab performance feels very out of date. 10 minutes later, I've been quickly scanning through the highlights. Nick
Pope have the best goalkeeping masterclass you've ever seen against Aston Villa.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose it's semi-similar to the argument we spoke about a few weeks ago that, you know, if you assess the league table and look at goal difference more so maybe than points, it kind of suggests whether you are in a false position. And Gerald's comments in the same vein that, you know, creating isn't the problem, it's actually putting the ball in the back of the net. Does that kind of alleviate any worries that you might have? That, because if it was that you'd only created 2 chances all game, you kind of think, well, if we don't create anything, we've got no chance. If you create 5, 6, 7 really decent chances and only manage to score 1, yes, while that's disappointing, it's surely encouraging to think, well, on another day, we scored 2 or 3 there and win the game quite comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, we've had those other days, haven't we? We've gone to Leeds and we've won comfortably. You know, we've battered
Burnley away.
Burnley away, but Southampton at home. You know, it'd be lovely if we score 3 or 4 goals every week. It's not going to happen. And we've got the architects who can create. We've got Buendia. We've got Coutinho. McGinn's shown that he can deliver when he's allowed to get forward a little bit more. We should theoretically have those who can finish as well, because Watkins was prolific in the levels below. His Premier League return is decent so far. I think Danny Ings has been one of the top scorers in the Premier League over the last 5 or 6 years. So listen, of course we're going to improve. We're going to. I think we probably will sign another centre forward, regardless of whether Watkins or Ings leaves. So we will improve, but I don't think it's a massive area of concern. I think it just needs the players that we have got to just deliver consistently, really.
Talking about Chukwuemeka a little bit, obviously a lot of talk that the last 6 months or so about his contract expiring soon and not signing a new one, not playing at all from February onwards, I don't think, and then getting a sub appearance in a couple of games, and then of course starting last night, a little bit out of the blue, but also kind of last home game of the season, nothing really on it. You can afford to experiment to an extent. Is there anything you can read into that to suggest that Gerrard and the coaching staff know that he's maybe edging closer towards a contract and rewarding him with appearances now? Or is it kind of the other way around of going, look, we'll start to play you because we want you to sign that contract? Because if they know he's leaving, do you start throwing him in from the cold when he's not played since February?
I don't listen. It's a guessing game, isn't it? You know, my reading of it would be that Gerrard wouldn't waste that space.
Yeah, same.
If he didn't think that Chukwuemeka, you know, I don't think Gerrard wants to turn Chukwuemeka into a brilliant player for somebody else. I think he would rather give him experience because he knows that Aston Villa will benefit down the line. Now, whether that comes to pass, I don't know. I actually think in terms of Chukwuemeka, and this is not, it might come across the criticism, it's not meant to be. I've only seen 6 out of 10 performances from him so far, really. And the fact that the lad's only played a handful of times and he doesn't look out of place in the Premier League, 6 out of 10 might be, that's not bad. That's decent. But I think there's something in there that really kind of waiting for him to explode onto the scene. You could perhaps argue that Jacob Ramsey's first half a dozen 10 appearances in a Villa shirt were similar, and then all of a sudden just did explode into this kind of midfield dynamo. And I know they're different types of player, but I hope he stays around, because I think there's enough there for him to be a very good player. I haven't quite seen it with my own eyes. People probably watching him more through the youth team than I have, and can say, well, actually, Matt, when this kid gets going, he's going to be a phenomenal player. I hope we get to see more of him. I hope we get to see his journey as an Aston Villa player, because I think there's a lot more to come from him.
I mean, we're doing our end of season kind of debrief review thing special next week, where we'll kind of talk about longer term discussion points like Carney. So I don't want to go too heavy on it now, but you kind of do wonder what his personal trajectory might be and what he feels like he can achieve. If he feels like leaving Villa is the option to go and play first team football in Germany, for example, or I don't know, he's not going to go and play first team football in the Premier League. You wouldn't think, so he's not getting it at Villa. But is he willing to go and drop down and play, League One loan like Jacob Ramsey was a couple of seasons ago, to kind of bide his time and then get back in at Villa? I'm not so sure what his kind of personal trajectory looks like.
To me, and I'm not his agent, and if I was, I probably wouldn't have my 1970s NHS specs on. I'd probably have some really, really smart designer specs. Where am I going with this? I think, to me, his best two options are these. And he might say, well, actually, Matt, you haven't seen who's been on the phone to me. I've got these options and these options and these. Best two options are to stay at Aston Villa. We don't know what Villa's spending spree will be like, so we don't know what his opportunities will be like next summer. But he certainly had some opportunities this season under Gerrard, who clearly rates him. Stay at Aston Villa, learn from senior players in a Premier League squad and get better and get introduced to playing regular football and fight for a place there. Or go to one of the stronger European leagues where he might get regular football at a really high standard. I don't know what purpose it serves him going on loan, to be honest. And I don't know what purpose it serves him going to another, probably lesser Premier League club and sitting on the bench there. I don't know. So one of those two things. And I think if he does leave and he does go and play football in Europe and plays regularly, I think he'll come back to the Premier League. I'm not saying it's quite the kind of Sancho kind of effect, but I think that could serve his career well. But why would he? We're biased, aren't we? But why would he leave? 10. If you got 10 starts and 5 substitute appearances for Aston Villa next season in a Villa team that's hopefully going for Europe, at the age of, what is he, Dan? Is he 21?
He's 18 now.
Is he really that young? Blimey.
He's 18, yeah.
At that age, what more do you want?
Well, yeah, exactly. This is kind of the point I made. I mean, I'm just looking at his date of birth now. I've got a big list of players for social posts and stuff like this. And I'm now at the age where I'm obviously a lot older than some of these players. He was born in 2003. And that's mad, isn't it? Being born in 2003. So yeah, October 2003 he was born. So he was 18, October just gone. So he'll be 19 when...
2003? I think my best going out shirt was probably born in October 2003.
So he'll be 19, a couple of months into the new season. I don't know. And again, we're probably getting a bit too in depth for this and ruining next week. But I don't know what his pathway looks like. I don't know whether there is 15 appearances for Aston Villa next season, and if he can go and get starts in a European league somewhere else and thinks that's me, that'll do. All the best to him. I think if he stays at Villa, he's not going to play, so he has to go on loan. But like if it's European football or like Swansea City on loan next season, battling for promotion, what do you pick there?
It's Swansea's in Europe, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't really have the answers. There's a lot of people saying from what I've seen of him, he's not that special, so get rid. I think that's a little bit harsh. I think he's 18, starting in the Premier League in a team that overall isn't really that good. So what are we expecting? To kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater because Villa have had a poor season and just say, let's bin Carney off is a bit short-sighted for an 18-year-old, in my opinion. If he was Keenan Davis, 23, 24, it's a different story.
Yeah, if he leaves, Villa can cope with that blow of him leaving. Let's not pretend they can't. But equally, I just think he needs to be wisely advised to think, well, okay, what is his career plan for the next 4 or 5 years, and where's that best served? But like I say, we'll leave that to his representatives.
Yeah. Talk to me about Chambers a little bit. I was actually at the game with Pat last night. He came with me. It's weirdly the first time we've met in person after we've known each other for a year or so. He's tall, yeah, deceptively tall, a bit like Max Stokes. Same glasses, same height. He's got to be 6'1", 6'2". So I'm kind of looking up at him like this. We had a good chat, and his kind of catchphrase from last night was, "Would Konsa have done that?" And this isn't kind of to dig Konsa out too much, but there's been a lot kind of made of Konsa's passing stats in terms of him not kind of carrying the ball forward and moving things along quickly enough. And then Chambers kind of pinging diagonals left, right, and centre, and he's every so often he'll kind of nudge me and go, "Would Konsa have done that? Would Konsa have done that?" And I said I was going to mention this on the podcast just to kind of throw him under the bus a little bit. But this is a kind of roundabout point of saying that I've been pleasantly surprised by Chambers. I didn't think he would barely even play for us, and now he seems to be our first. I mean, obviously his first choice centre back with Konsa being injured, but I think there's times where Chambers has deserved his place over a fit Konsa as well.
In fairness to Konsa, if you'd have stayed, Dan, if you'd been a proper fan and stayed till the end and seen the parade,
seen the pictures, mate. So
he was hobbling around on his crutch with a smile on his face. Would Chambers have done that? Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because Konsa was until 6 months ago Rolls-Royce defender, and now Chambers has come in. I mean, Pat would probably would have had a keener eye than me on what Chambers did. He does look comfortable in possession. He does look like he can move the ball quickly. I thought Loughton had done him really badly at first.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
I don't think there's malice in that, and that's probably a little bit of former Aston Villa player bias in there. But from the way Matt Loughton, I've seen him play and the way he is as a guy, I don't think it was malicious. But I did think we could do without that. If Konsa's out for the summer, which if you're going to get injured, you might as well get injured during the close season. We could cope with, we could do without Chambers going coming to an injury as well. But I like him. I'll end up repeating myself because I like the fact that we've now got three strong centre halves to pick from. So was Pat kind of eulogising about Chambers then, or?
To an extent, yeah. I mean, Pat was. I don't know whether Pat will end up watching this. I hope he does. But he came with me in place to my dad. My dad was gone on holiday. Obviously, Burnley wasn't supposed to be last night, so he thought he'd be fine. So he couldn't go. And Pat was like a little kid at Christmas, being sat so close to the pitch. He kept saying, he's like, I could hear Gerrard like talking, and like a little excitable kid. So we're like 10 rows back of the lower Trinity. So he's kind of like looking around like a kid on Christmas, like I said. But yeah, I did say to him at one point, do you like kind of watch the game with a kind of tactical head on? Are you thinking about, Douglas Luiz has kind of only dropped 2 passes tonight? Like that means his stats are good, or are you just kind of watching it? And he said, to an extent, but I'm like so close to the pitch, like it's hard to look at the shape of who's moving and who's floating wide or whatever. And I'm just like, I'll just take it all in, mate. I'll just rely on you to give me some tactical insight later. But yeah, it was good. It was a nice evening at Villa Park. Bought me a pint as well, so fair play to Pat if he's watching. 11 quid for 2 pints inside Villa Park. I mean, that's outrageous, isn't it?
I paid 670. I paid £6.70 for a pint in Birmingham on.
Oh, that's crazy, isn't it?
It was. I can't remember what night it was. Wednesday.
Whatever. That's Wednesday, I think you went. Yeah. But yeah, it was good. It was a good night. It would have been nice to see Villa win and score a couple more goals. I've written the email newsletter to go out today, and it's like 2 games, 2 draws, 2 goals against Palace and Burnley is a pretty meh way to end the season. But luckily, we're not Burnley at the bottom fighting for every point. We're safe. Season's done. We go again next year, to quote Paul Lambert.
I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Just a one-off single sneeze. Those are collector's items. I'm normally a 3 or 4 man. They're probably going to build up now. I've probably provoked my sneeze into coming back out. What we're talking about? Yeah, well, we haven't ended the season yet. We've still got another game.
No, I ended the home season. I mean, the 2 home games in a row. It would have been nice to see a couple more goals and a few more points, but that's the way football goes. I want to talk about Tyrone Mings, feeling a couple of different aspects. First of all, his performance last night, I thought he was good. And that block saved a point. I mean, obviously Nick Pope's made a few great saves, and that kind of saves them a point as well. But that block is very, very good for Mings, and that is what he's good at.
Yeah, I was chatting crap to my nephew on the way back to the car last night.
That don't sound like you.
And we were saying, genuinely, we're saying that it's not going to happen. But you should have like a wild card, like a joker that you can play at some stage through the season where a moment that's not a goal, but he's so good, can count as a goal. Whether it's a bit of skill or whether it's like a block like that or a save. You can just have that one that you can play it. And that would have been my one.
We win last night because Mings' block is worthy of a goal.
Yeah, we get the goal. We'll stick the goal in there.
Yeah,
it was brilliant, to be honest. And it was.
Hang on. The only downside of that is that then Burnley would play their card and say that Mings block was good enough to should have been a goal. So I can't see how it's 2-2.
I'm not thought through whatsoever. But the Mings block was worth a goal. In my mind. I think what's the fellow? It's their big old beast, isn't it?
Tarkovsky?
No, it's the striker.
The forward, Weghorst.
Yeah, Weghorst, that's the fella. He should have buried it, to be fair. But Mings, it's almost a dying.
It wasn't like Mings. It wasn't like Mings. It just hit Mings though. Like he's stretched out. He's got his boot on it.
Oh yeah. I don't think Weghorst would have thought Mings would have.
Yeah.
Arrived in his line of vision and done that. I don't know. I think it's a dying art, the art of brave defending. And I remember having a drunken row with one of my colleagues from work a few months ago after Mings, the Mings Saka challenge that he got booked for, and everybody was saying it wasn't even a foul, and Arsenal fans saying, you jeopardised the life of one of our superstars and all this kind of stuff. And him saying, and he supports Liverpool. Him saying, well, why is Mings had to? It's bad defending that a defender has to even go to ground anymore. As if to say we've all got kind of Rolls Royce defenders who can be that positionally aware and stuff. That no, sometimes players will be caught out by the ability of somebody else, and they will need to do that last ditch block tackles and all this kind of thing. And I almost think it's frowned upon that if your centre half actually leaves, do you know what I mean? Goes to ground to make a tackle or a block. That's a sign of weakness. I'm thinking, where did that?
That's the game.
Where did that come in? So Mings is great at that. Mings can do the warrior side of things. He can do the last ditch challenges and stuff like that. And some people say, well, if the positioning was right in the first place, you wouldn't need to do it. Okay, yeah, I get that. It'd be great if everybody's in control ahead of events and can see all these things. Prevention's better than cure. I get that. But if you've got somebody, and my lad plays centre half, and he's done all right this season, but they're still conceded loads and loads of goals. And I've said
Sounds like Villa.
I've said to him, you don't do it. Look at me again with my with my daddy UEFA Pro daddy license in the back garden. I said to him, you don't do it. Look, I said to him, like Mings last night, that's what you need to do. There's going to be situations where you're going to get caught out. Somebody's going to have you for pace. Somebody's going to sneak up on a blind side and get the better of you. But you've got to really do what you can to throw whatever you can in front of the ball to stop it going in that goal. And I still like that. I still like that type of defending, and I think Mings epitomises that. People will say, I think you're going to probably get onto the Newcastle thing, and Newcastle reportedly being interested in him and stuff like that. There probably are still weaknesses in his game that stop him from being a top 4, a top 6 defender. But I don't know. I've spoken at length about him in the past. How much I respect him on and off the pitch. I think he brings more than Tyrone Mings, the defender, to that team. I think he brings a real kind of leadership and almost like a statesman-like figure to that team. I'd be loath to see him go, but I know that he divides the fan base, doesn't he?
Just before we get into that, there was a similar moment. I kind of heard the grumbles, or I can imagine the grumbles of Mings clearing a ball into the away end. I think it was. It came over and he just hit it first time and it went into the stands. And you kind of think, I can imagine people going, "Oh, he should be bringing that down and playing it out and starting a counter."
My nephew said that. He sits behind me and he said, "Why is he not giving it the goalkeeper?" And I think, well,
sometimes just get rid of it though, because if he lets it bounce and slips over and we concede,
So I don't know.
If he makes a mistake there trying to be too clever, he's slated for it. If he just puts it in Rose's head and we kind of reset, he's slated for it. Like that happens to him and other players. On the Newcastle thing, me and John Townley did a Facebook Live yesterday, so I've tweeted a clip. So I have already kind of given an opinion on this, but not on the podcast feed specifically. So forgive me if I'm repeating myself at any point here. Newcastle United are apparently interested in Mings for a figure of apparently 35 million. And we paid 26 for him, I think, in 2019, 2018, 2019. A backup left back essentially when he signed for us for Bournemouth, not being played by Eddie Howe. So that kind of feels like a bit of a lazy link, really, to be linked with Eddie Howe's money-rich Newcastle. Now a centre back for Villa, 100 appearances in the Premier League, I think, captain. And I was coming out of Villa Park one day and I could hear people talking about how he's a terrible choice for captain and all these kind of things. And I can understand slating him to an extent of his playing ability and that he's, is he a centre-back that's going to get us into European football? Probably not. I'm not so sure if he is. But if there's one thing you can give him credit for, it is his leadership and him being an ambassador for Aston Villa and who he represents. I can't think of a better person to be captain. If there's one thing he's good at, captaincy is good. Football, he obviously does make a mistake. He is inconsistent. That's football. We're 14th. Like, what do we expect? What I kind of don't really understand is, and these are all paper links, but McGinn with Spurs, who are probably going to be in the Champions League, Antonio Conte can spot a player. Watkins to West Ham, which we know Gerrard doesn't want to get rid of him, but there's interest there. Europa League semi-finalists. And Newcastle are heading into where we want to go with massive money behind them, want our captain and centre-back. But as Villa fans, we go, all three of them, get rid. They're not good enough. We can replace all those. And while I understand, maybe they aren't the players to take us to the next level, clubs that are in that next level are looking at them as options to have in their squad. And they might not be starting Tyrone Mings at Newcastle every single game or McGinn at Spurs every single game, but they see qualities there in them to want them at a level we want to go to. So it's all well and good saying, get rid, but the Leon Bailey experiment is cause for concern of, we might be able to replace John McGinn, but what if it's a Morgan Sanson who we replace him with? Oh yeah, Champions League pedigree, French player, 15 million, good business that is. And then it's a Sanson or it's a Bailey, and we're back to square one with a squad where we've got 4 or 5 new players. We've lost our spine of players who, maybe aren't good enough, but are steady. And this time next season, it's not 14th, we're fighting for it, 17th again. So I kind of feel like be careful what you wish for to an extent, but also recognising that some of these players have got limitations. And that's my two pennies on it. See you later.
Very well spoken, Dan. This is the challenge for your scouts, though, isn't it? This is your scouting. This is where you hope that kind of Rob McKenzie and you hope that Johan Lang are better than the Newcastle equivalent and the West Ham equivalent and that kind of thing. Because it does beg the question, and listen, it is paper talk. We don't know whether there's any definite links in some of the rooms that are flying around. But if the teams that you've just outlined do have probably similar ambitions to Villa, but might be West Ham and Tottenham have obviously stolen the march on Villa, so they're in a stronger position to start with. And Tottenham look like they're going to be in the Champions League as well. If they are looking at those positions and they think that the likes of McGinn and Watkins and Mings and so on are an upgrade on what they've got, where are we going to go shopping for our replacements? Like I say, and I'm not saying that it's not. Of course, there's going to be loads of brilliant players out there if we can do our due diligence on them and get those deals done, and you'd back the team that we've got within the team to try and get those things done. But yeah, it's an interesting one. We're probably always going to be harsher on our own because we see them. It sounds a bit like sentimental, but it's like you kind of love your family, but you see their faults more than anybody else because you live with them all the time. Probably a little bit like that kind of relationship with our own players. I mean, the Mings to Newcastle one I find interesting because, and again, it's squads and it's competition for places. But they've signed Dan Burn, who's a big, strong, left-footed centre half, who, from what I understand and the bits that I've seen, has been really popular there, has done a really good job, has been part of their revival. So does Tyrone Mings come to challenge him, to partner him, to replace him? I'm not sure.
They do need reinforcements, Newcastle, and they will spend money. But I mean, there's a possible world out there where Tyrone Mings and Matt Targett played together for a Newcastle defence heading for Europe that we deem not good enough at Aston Villa, who finished 14th. I mean, I understand, like I said, the caveat of Mings' inconsistencies, and he does have his limitations, but strengthening, unless it's silly money, strengthening a potential rival, if us and Newcastle are competing for Europa League football at some point in the future, does seem crazy. And there's a comment here from Steve. He says Mings, McGinn and Watkins are the core of our team. Ditch them and it'll cost us 150 million to replace them. Obviously, we're going to get money for those three players if they do go. But I kind of feel like we've got to spend 150 million to supplement the people that we've already got. Never mind replace some of those, because we need a more in-depth squad before we do anything else.
Yeah, we're probably creating a problem for ourselves that we don't need to create, I think, unless...
I'm not even saying that Mings and McGinn will start. I'm not even saying McGinn and Mings would start every single game next season if we brought other players in, but they keep them around the squad to keep some kind of continuity there, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I don't see at this moment any real value in cashing in on any of those three that you mentioned.
When I mentioned silly money, any rough kind of figures that you...
I'm not selling them, Dan. Don't start this.
No.
This is not a negotiating position. They're not for sale.
Yeah, right. There was a hypothetical scenario. Then this is podcast material. If Newcastle got bucket loads of money, West Ham have obviously got decent cash. If they come to you and say 60 million for Mings, I'm sure there has to be a point when you suddenly go, yeah, okay, he's for sale now.
All right, yeah, I'll take 60.
Okay, there we go.
You're very good negotiating.
Would you take 35? Obviously, we paid 26 odd for him with bonuses. He's now an England international. He's played 100 games in the Premier League. He's our captain. It's 4 or 5 years ago that we signed him. Would you take 35 for Mings, or is that not enough if he was for sale?
Do you haggle like this when you're doing your weekly shop at Aldi?
I'm just asking, mate. I mean, we're doing a podcast. I have to give some kind of questioning for you.
Well, Mings 35 million.
Yeah.
No. Let's open the bidding at 40 million. Okay.
I'll agree. I still wouldn't sell him. And that's that, I think. No doubt you and me will discuss this again on the end of season review. So we've had a practice run at it there.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention a tweet.
Start higher next week, though. Start 45.
Okay, fair enough. I wanted to mention a tweet from Jamie Gray, son of Andy. I don't know why I said it like that. That was weird. He says, although we're 14th, we're 1 win from 10th. Over the course of this season, we've thrown more than one stupid result. If we improve by a swing of 2, 3, or even 4 results, we'd be challenging for Europe. With only a couple of quality signings, you can see where 6 to 8 points would come from. And I tweeted him back saying, stop talking sense. In a time where there's kind of a little bit of head loss maybe after a pretty disappointing season. But Watford have beat us twice. Like, even reverse some of those points and we'd be a lot better off. Wolves beating us twice and we're ahead against them in that one game. The last 2 games, Palace and Burnley at home, if you win one of those, like, as much as it's been a disappointing season, add another 10 points onto us, which is pretty feasible. I know every team will have these things where they say, if we didn't hit the post there or this goal was ruled out, we'd be so much higher up now, whatever. But it does feel like we're not miles away, or am I getting a bit carried away?
I think isn't that just the nature of being a mid-table beast, though? Isn't that the case with you turn your draws into wins and you turn your defeats into draws and you're 3 places at the table? That's the case for everybody. I don't think we're a million miles away from challenging for the top 8. I think we can do that. It's really, we'll get stuck into this next week, but it's been a really, really strange season because it's been a kind of boom and bust roller coaster because we haven't had too many draws until the last couple of weeks. We've tended to go win 3 or 4 games, and the world looks like a rosy place, and then lose 3 or 4, and we start comparing Smith versus Gerrard win percentages. We start saying, Coutinho's had, and we aren't bad as anything. We chat crap most weeks. It's Coutinho's had a few games, and he's the best player we've ever seen. And then he has a couple of quiet games. It's like, should we sign him? Can we get him in Buendia? And then Buendia comes in, and he's brilliant. And it's one of those seasons, and it's a very, very simple analysis, but it's just consistency. Can this team find a way of producing 90-minute performances? Like my nephew tweeted yesterday before the game saying, I'd love to see a 90-minute performance from Buendia, meaning I want Buendia to start and to stay on all game. And I just tweeted him back saying, I'd love to see a 90-minute performance from Aston Villa, let alone from Buendia. I don't think we saw one of those last night from Villa either. So can Villa find their level when, even when we're not playing well, we can still grind out results? And I'm not sure that we can. I think sometimes when we play well, we don't do enough to get a victory. Or when we create, like last night, when we create well, we don't do enough to get a victory. And sometimes when we're off it, we're properly off it, and we don't do enough to just stay in games and to grind out draws. So in response to Jamie's tweet, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. Not beyond the realms of possibility that this squad, even without summer additions, couldn't have got into, probably not into Europa League.
Certainly into the top half, though.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty much a glass half full bloke, I think, going into this summer, and let's see what Gerrard and the team can do in terms of having a good pre-season with the players that they've got and sprinkling little bits of quality into the squad.
Yeah, I've flashed the league table up quickly, but the point about us being mid-table is pretty much anyone there from just about Southampton, but Palace, Newcastle, Brentford and Brighton, it's very tight between the 4 of us. They'll all be saying things. If we did just picked up 3 points against Villa, we'd be much higher at the table, things like that. So, us spelling on 50 goals scored, 51 conceded, -1 goal difference. It's very much middle of the road, isn't it? But it's 18 losses. I thought it was 19. I thought we'd lost 19 now. Anyway, 18 losses apparently. And even if that's a couple more draws or the odd win here and there, and you're looking at like 51, 52 points now, and you're up in 8th, and that doesn't seem impossible, does it, with this squad, like you've just said? So hopefully with some summer additions, a pre-season, a proper pre-season as well, uninterrupted with that international football and stuff like that. If we get off to a good start, then you never know what might happen. A good way for me to summarise it, and I said this to Pat last night about Traore specifically and some of his chances last night, is how I felt like the Roy Hodgson meme of him at the World Cup, where he's kind of looking and he's getting his hopes up and his head goes down. That's how I feel about Traore sometimes, but as a good metaphor for the whole season, you have these little glimmers of hope where you think something might be about to happen, but ultimately it ends with your head down and a bit of disappointment. I'd like to see that little bit of anticipation and with a goal celebration in future rather than my head hanging in disappointment.
It reminded me of the Frank Lampard meme there. I thought there was never an evening more Frank Lampard meme-ish than Everton last night. The first half, got a serious face, and the second half breaking into a smile. I mean, so how many points? We're on 45 points, are we?
Is that going to load? Yes. 45, yeah.
What did we finish on last year? 55?
55.
So, providing we beat Man City on Sunday, we're going to finish 7 points short, which I think that's probably, we're going to finish 7 or 10 points short, which I think
we're going to finish 10 points short, let's face it.
Is a fairly reliable snapshot of the season. I think really, lost the golden boy in Jack Grealish, changed managers halfway through. Matty Cash was our player of the year, which I like Matty Cash, but probably, even he would argue that he's not the complete player yet.
Well, it says everything when a defender gets player of the year, doesn't it?
Yeah, listen, I'm not knocking Matty Cash. I think he's been a breath of fresh air. But I think, cliche alert, the league table does not lie, and the amount of points that we've got, that points total in a different year might have dropped you down a couple more places, or might have lifted you up a couple more places. But I think Aston Villa being a 45/48/46 point team this season is an accurate reflection. I thought Gerrard spoke really, really honestly and openly last night. I think, did he say that Villa were lucky? That almost like the players and him were privileged to be at such a club with such a fan base and delivering mediocrity. I think was that pretty much the message I think he was saying. And I think that shows, and not that we need him to show it, because we know the cut of his jib, we know what he's here to do. That just shows that he doesn't want it. I thought that when he was involved in the lap of appreciation, and he was a little bit sheepish and a little bit. I thought, well, how many seasons has he ended the season when the lap of appreciation has not involved something silver and shiny in his hands? There can't be many. And I just thought it must have been a little bit, I need more than this, and it's on me. It's on me to deliver more than this.
I like those comments. What I've said before, it's easy to, dish out a flashy soundbite. You got to see more proof of the pudding, and where we are when we break for the World Cup at the end of the year will tell us everything. If we're still fighting around the bottom six of the Premier League, I don't know how many games in the World Cup break comes. Is it 12 or 15 or 10 or something like that? You've got to be up and around there at that stage of the season to suggest that we're going in the right direction here ahead of that World Cup break. Just quickly on the Matty Cash thing, I also agree. I'm not slating Matty Cash, but it's worth researching. I wonder how many teams in the Premier League gave a defender their player of the season. Like, none of the top teams are going to have a defender, because it's the goal scorers and the assist makers that win these awards. So it kind of says everything when defender is your best player, because you're not going to give it to a Watkins or Ings because they've scored 7 goals or something.
I don't think it's the biggest surprise in the world. Given if the defender's been your best player, you give the defender the award. So just Villa have been just generally flat, inconsistent, and leaving us wanting more. Not more of that, more of something else.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it without us getting too far into an inquest of what went wrong, and that will be next week's end of season debrief, and we'll have a chat for an hour or so about the season in its entirety. Have you got any nonsense which you want to go through? Because I've got a couple of things in front of me I want to mention.
I don't think so. I wanted to give a shout out to the guy who sits next to me. Are
we getting messages from the same place?
I don't know. I've suddenly heard some pinging.
I think it's me.
Is it some Google Messenger group that people are nagging us on? I'm going to shut it down anyway. I just want to give a shout out to a guy called Ben who sits on the end of our row at the top of the Trinity, and his daughter. Oh God, I think it's Zoe. But I'll turn my phone off. Zoe. She's come back. She's I think she studies in the States, and I think she's an athlete as well in the States. And she came back and arrived back in Birmingham yesterday morning, had the treat of her dad taking her to Villa versus Burnley for a 1-1 end of season nothingness game. Big shout out to the core of fans around us. Really, we've had this before, and we don't want to dig out the annoying ones around you. But I'm struck lucky with where we sit. There's a really, really nice group of people. So hopefully, we've all had our emails to renew. So we're all going to leave it a couple more weeks and leave the money in our own bank accounts rather than Villa's for a couple more weeks. So sorry if that does affect the transfer spending. Really, really, really lovely bunch. And even though the season has been up and down and, not quite as thrill a minute as we'd have hoped, it's been a pleasure kind of sitting next to the folks around me.
Yeah, the guy on the end of my row last night said, how are you now after COVID? And I was like, he only knows that because I mentioned it on the last podcast, so I know that he watched the most recent one, and no doubt we're watching this. I had a couple of shout-outs as well, and I was prepared for having my phone off, and I've actually got mine written down on a little piece of note paper in front of me.
Shrewd.
Old school. Wazza and Badminton Dan, your pals who took me to the stadium. It was a nightmare for me to try and get a train. It was a bit of a silly story, really. Obviously, my dad wasn't going. I don't own a car. really awkward to get there from where I am. So you thankfully put a word out to Wazza. I don't even know what his real name is. What is it? Paul or something? No, what's his real name?
That's Warren.
Okay, Wazza. And then Badminton Dan, because there's loads of Dans, apparently.
We're not having, see that nickname. You saying those nicknames. Do you watch Afterlife when there's the old Dennis Penny's character and he's talking about all of his nicknames, all the offensive nicknames and stuff like that? It just reminded me of that for some reason. Wazza is Warren. These are a couple of lads who play five-a-side with me. The veterans five-a-side on a Sunday evening in Albury. And Wazza's a good lad. Big Stourbridge Town. Big Stourbridge fan. So I did. Is it Stourbridge Town?
Yeah.
It's Stourbridge Town.
I think it might just be Stourbridge, actually.
Yeah.
Stourbridge FC.
Big fan of Stourbridge. So I was a bit reluctant about you being a Yelts man, being in his car. Fortunately,
I didn't mention that. No, I took a couple of bottles of beer as well to say thanks. I think it was his sons as well. I think it was his kids in the back. And it was, nice guys. We had a nice chat on the way there. On the way back, they dropped me at the train station. No one cares about this. They dropped me at Rowley, thinking I'll get the train back to Kiddie, nice and smooth. That's a nice, easy way to get back. And then I get to Rowley, and there's no trains to Kiddie at that time of night. So I had to get an Uber. So that was £22 on Uber from Rowley to Kiddie.
Should have phoned mate. He'd have come and got you.
He did say actually on the way back, "Do you want us to take you back to Kiddie?" And I said no. And I thought, this makes me look silly now. I'm stuck in a train station without any trains.
Yeah, the reason Badminton Dan's called Badminton, by the way, is because he plays badminton.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
But the reason why we refer to him as Badminton Dan is we've got there's about 15 of us who turn up and stuff. But we've got about 6 of them are called Dan. So Badminton Dan has to be differentiated by the fact he plays badminton. We've got Jason Dan. I don't know why he's called Jason Dan, whether Jason's his middle name or what. We've got Dan Westbury, so we just call him Westy. We've got Dan Rock, so he's just Rocky. Is there any more Dans? There must be a few more Dans, but more Dans than a karate champion.
What I liked as well is what I discovered is that they call you Ken. So I'm
not a fan of you knowing that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Makes me sound even more old money, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think one of them called you Kenny at one point. And I like that. So I'm going to start calling you Ken from now on. Kenny Kendrick.
I'm going to Man City with Badminton Dan on on Sunday. He's got me a ticket. Yeah. So,
nice. Also, the very last thing I wanted to mention, I don't know whether my dad will be watching because they have gone away. He does watch occasionally, which is I said to one point to mum and dad, it's embarrassing for some reason. I don't know why. It just feels embarrassing. Anyway, obviously they're not there, so he said, "Oh, you film a few bits on your phone to send me like the atmosphere and that kind of stuff." So I said, "Okay." I forgot anyway, and I was with Pat. But the one thing he said, this is so silly. I really don't mean it to be disrespectful, and neither did he. He said, "Can you do a bit of a video when they did show the dead people?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, like when they did the remembrance thing and like all the ex-players that had passed away and stuff on the big screen." I just thought that was such a strange way of saying it. Like, can you just film the dead people bit? And I thought that's not disrespectful at all. I don't mean it to the people that have sadly lost people this season, but yeah, just kind of tickled me a little bit the way my dad phrased it. So I thought I'd mention it on this to hopefully see whether he watches the podcast or not.
I thought they did a
It's a nice tribute. Yeah, it is nice.
Job of it, to be honest, and not nice when the ground breaks into chance of Holtham's in the sky as well. So and obviously they've not been able to do that for a couple of years. So it was people who passed away in the last 2 or 3 years. So it's not a nice moment, but it is a nice moment that Villa take that time to reflect on the people we've lost. So, and your dad needs to phrase it less clumsily.
Yeah. Well, he only sent it to me privately, and it's me who's now told everyone else. But just tickled me because I told Pat about it, and he looked at me as if he was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Oh, this is just the reason." But yeah, that's it. The last home game of the season. We've got one more post-match podcast to do, which will be on Sunday, I guess. Villa Man City is on TV. It won't be with you though, because obviously you're there. So actually, I don't know how that's going to work. That's one for me to solve in the next day or so. But we will do some kind of post-match podcast, whether it's Sunday afternoon or Monday morning. I am unsure. And then we've got our big end-of-season kind of debrief on Wednesday. And we have got a link that people can send questions in and stuff. And I'll put that in the comments below. I'm trying to find it now, but I don't think I'll get it in time. But yeah, thank you very much for watching this season for the home games. Thank you, Matt, for joining me after every single match. It's been a pleasure and a nice return to reality. We were doing these anyway, weren't we, after the game on the whistle when every game was on TV. But it's nice to go to the game now and and actually reflect on things in person together afterwards.
There was one thing that I noticed last night on the lap of appreciation. It just made me chuckle. I don't think John McGinn is a dad, is he? Was it his niece?
I don't know.
John McGinn came out with a kind of young, little kind of toddler age little girl, and it was, and they was trying to get a photo with him. I think it might have, I don't know who it was. It was a family member, or it was John McGinn's partner, trying to get a photo of her. But there's a camera. I don't know whether it was like a Sky camera or whether it was a Villa AVTV camera or whatever, like a video camera. And they were trying to get her to look at this, that look down the phone that was taking a photo of her. And she kept looking at the video camera instead. And I just found it. I don't know what you're like with your fiance and with your family, but we are the worst family ever at kind of Instagrammable photos. I mean, mainly because we're all a bit weird looking anyway. but secondly, because somebody will be looking away, somebody have their eyes closed, somebody be, you know. And I know it's not so bad now. You can take 100 photos on your phone. You know, back in the day, if you know, I'm talking a long time ago. This must have gone through the generations. You'd have to take a film camera and to get it developed. Like we must have, you know, we've probably got lofts full of just pictures of the tops of our heads cut off and us sneezing and blinking and stuff like that. But it was refreshing to know that even celebrity professional footballers can't nail the kind of Instagram pictures as easily as we think they look. But yeah, that's it, I think, from me.
Yeah, the flip side of that, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to load this quick enough or not, is that there is professional photographers at the game capturing every moment, and there is a picture of McGinn with that child. I'll try and flash it up if it'll load quickly or not. So that is the flip side to being a professional footballer.
Whereas me, oh, that's nice. That's a nice picture. It's probably a bit older than toddler. But whereas it's me, and I'm, you know, we're on holiday in bloody Mallorca or whatever, I don't have that luxury of somebody rescuing it after the event. But yeah, no, it is a sweet moment when the little ones come on the pitch, and everybody can give the players a little warm round up. Everybody who's still, you know, bothered enough to stay along, down like the proper fans.
Overrated. Last thing I wanted to end on with is a plug, as always, like we do on the live shows now. With which one do you want, Peter with or 1982? Or are you bored of both?
Why don't you plug them? Which one have you got queued up?
I've got either.
I was going to pick something else.
Oh God!
Go for 1982 again. Go for 1982.
Okay. What I was going to ask is, have you watched the BT thing yet?
I haven't yet. Have you?
Nah, it's on the BT Sport app thing on the smart TV.
I might watch it across the weekend.
Did you hear that?
What was it?
I think it's my phone Siri saying what media would you want me to play, because I've said app, I think. But yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I will do want to. But no one wants to watch BT Sport. I can watch our Claret and Blue 82 podcast. That's why I wanted to get that.
All the way Dennis Mortimer was trying to plug that BT Sport thing all throughout our podcast, and we just chopped those bits out.
Yeah. But BT, if you are watching, we would like to share some stuff from that. So yeah, it's a great film. Thank you very much. I'm going to play that trailer. Matt, thanks for your time and with your insight and nonsense as always. Thanks for the comments on Facebook and YouTube for watching along live. As I said, we'll be back over the weekend and next week. Here's Dennis Mortimer. Take it away, sir.
They had the trophy on the pitch and they were throwing it around to each other. I just felt that day
angry.
I just felt we're going to take this off you next season.
The work rate from that team was unbelievable.
Is that including me and Shorey?
That's including everybody.
That's making up for you, Shorey.
But I think he was a type of manager who'd quite happily win every game 1-0, wouldn't he?
Yes.
It's like you didn't want to win 4-3 or 5-4. No. It wasn't like that. You give nothing away.
Tony didn't come in and give any ultimatums or anything like that. He was, you know, we all knew Tony anyway, but Tony didn't need to say anything to us. He just needed to sort of be in charge of us. I felt we were in charge of ourselves. Yeah. Our destiny was in our hands. It wasn't in a new manager coming in and taking over, you know.
And I walked over to him, sat down next to him, and he turned around and he went, "You were lucky."
Did you mean to hit the post with the shot? You know, from the yard out.
And did you still wind him up about that and coming up?
No, we don't wind him up. No, he scored the goal. Listen, none of us care. God, I wish I had scored it.
The best thing about it was, as you were speaking earlier, is that team is the best team the club have ever had and never will have.
I mean, I just think to myself, you know, being captain, there's no way I could have gone up with a Bayern shirt on. I just knew I couldn't do that.
And if you can go through a whole season and trust in each other, in fact 2 seasons really, and trusting each other wholeheartedly, that is fantastic. We never had that again after the European Cup final.
The team of 80, 81, 82, yeah, are true legends in Aston Villa folklore. And for me, like, that just makes us, you know, we're history. And I love that.